Hello and welcome back, everyone, to round 5 of the second weekly of the Eternal Tournament Series Season 3. We are jumping right into this wonderful match right here with tvkelley on Stonescar Midrange versus Peaceful on Stonescar Burn.
Yeah, it looks like an aggressive matchup with a lot of nasty cards being played. Oni Ronin into Argenport for Peaceful here, but a turn off on the actual timer.
Yeah, playing it on turn 2 never feels quite as... And tvkelley having the answer right there to go ahead and back himself up. He's going to have a Champion of Chaos online as a 4/4 next turn, which will match up decently well with Peaceful stuff, but we do see the Death Strike hanging out in Peaceful's hand to take care of at least the first of these Champions of Chaos.
Yeah, Peaceful definitely has like a lot of early game stuff going on here, and that is to his advantage as far as like pushing the damage across it goes. tvkelley might have to play a more defensive game, and we'll see how well that turns out for him. If he can get to the Statuary Maiden and like actually secure some of those excellent cudgels, that should be a significant boon to him in the late.
Yeah, and interesting that we see tvkelley or Peaceful go ahead and swing in with a 3/3, and I feel like, yeah, you might have to take that block, unfortunately, as tvkelley, even though it's pretty well signaled that the Var's favor was hanging out. And
Yep, in games like these, you usually want to take the trades of the 2-for-1s. Like even if it's a Vara's favor, it's a pretty good deal for you. Peaceful is already moving up on his 6th power, so Kelly has to deal with both of these Pyro Knights, or else they're going to become much too big for him to. He manages to quarry a torch, but looks like that is not the case. He ends up with a Seek power instead.
yeah, it does pick up the zero power Seek power, so that'll be helpful next turn for his fixing. In the meantime, Peaceful gets this big Pyro Knight down, and I have to imagine tvkelley is just going to respond by killing it with Death Strike this turn.
Yep. He'll wait until wait and see if Peaceful like does anything like equip or do anything like play a larger threat. But I think that the Death Strike on the 6/5 is just fine here.
Yeah, I think you're definitely Death Striking the 6/5 here, although the Soulfire Drake coming off the top of the deck does present another threat for tvkelley to have to deal with. Fortunately, he is holding an Obliterate and another Death Strike, but that will give all the units in Peaceful's deck charge or flying, and both of those abilities can be fairly relevant in the matchup.
Pretty scary situation. Statuary Maiden would fix this problem very handily, but he can't afford to take another 5 damage here and get himself into Obliterate range. At this point,
Ooh.
tvkelley's in a lot of trouble from top decks.
Yeah, and actually that was a misplay out of tvkelley there to fire off the Death Strike at the Soulfire Drake before Peaceful had drawn. Because if Peaceful's top card had been a unit, it's possible that killing the Soulfire Drake on tvkelley's turn would have given Peaceful's unit charge, gotten him an extra attack in there.
Yeah, it's a pretty risky situation. It also means that he can't decide whether or not to use the Death Strike on, say, an Umbran Reaper or some other card. Yep, Flame Blast closes that game out right quick.
Yeah, 8 power, and that was another showcase of exactly the game plan of Stone Scar. Like, you just want to put down some early units, get a lot of aggression on the board, and just whittle your opponent down. And then once they get down under 10 health, it really is just it's so easy for the Stone Scar player to just close the game out. Your opponent finds themselves under 10 health. Their reach is just too great to dodge.
Peaceful looking already ready to go. I'm not sure if he made any sideboard changes at all. So tvkelley has got whatever he wants to put in. But oh yeah, there actually isn't a sideboard on Peaceful's side. So this matchup's not going to get any better for him, but it will get worse. So he's got a lot to climb out of.
Yeah, he really does have a tall order to deal with here. It is possible, though, as we've seen plenty of times in the past, for a Stone Scar deck to run off 2 games very easily. They are quite good at winning games. Will depend on what these opening hands look like. And Peaceful, with an interesting hand right there, might actually elect for a keep, but decides to redraw it, doesn't like how slow it is, and picks up another pretty reasonable hand, has the Pyro Knight on 1 and the Bar's Favor or the Suffocate on 2. See tvkelley having the Suffocate in response on, though. If he wants to anyway, though, he probably will go with the Seek Power now that he found the Bar's Favor.
Yeah, it seems reasonable here to Vara's favor the Pyro Knight. You take an extra point of damage, or an extra 2 points of damage, and that's never fun, but being able to Vara's favor and save the Suffocate for a bigger threat like Argenport Instigator seems pretty relevant here. And Peaceful has to spend his turn running Vara's favor out into tvkelley's face, so this does favor him quite a bit.
Yeah, this is starting to put him in a nice position. tvkelley picking up Quarry. He has the Death Strike and the Obliterate to handle some of the bigger threats. So Peaceful just taking a turn off since he has an awkward curve.
Yep. He does have the Impending Dooms at 4, and 2 Impending Dooms means a pretty substantive amount of threats. We know we have Death Strike and Obliterate here, but that's going to be tvkelley just reacting for the next couple of turns. So whatever he wants to do here, we'll see what he gets. He gets a Suffocate with his Sabotage.
Yeah, that's not actually terrible since that would have cleaned up his Statuary Maiden in a pretty favorable exchange here. But now we're going to see the meat of Peaceful's game plan, where he's just going to put these big threats one after another onto the board.
Yeah, Impending Doom after Impending Doom after Impending Doom is pretty scary, and tvkelley really wanted a turn to develop that Statuary Maiden before he started going in with his removal threats, but that might cost him pretty badly. Peaceful can either develop more Impending Dooms and not worry about the cudgels, or he can just kill the Statuary Maiden and continue the pressure. Either way, tvkelley's down a turn and another 5 health from this play.
Yeah, and I like Peaceful trying to get aggressive here and putting down the extra Impending Doom. I like the idea that he's going to push for a very quick closeout here of this game. He's already holding the Flame Blast, so he's got extra reach. And he's really put tvkelley on the back foot as far as tvkelley is forced to answer each of these Impending Dooms as they come down, and it does eat his whole turn, though it is eating Peaceful's whole turn as well. But with the advantage of having the Impending Doom on curve, he can start punching for 5 every turn and puts tvkelley on a real clock, definitely with the second Flame Blast picked up.
Yeah, I'm not sure if Kelly could really afford to play that Statuary Maiden here. Now he's got the Soulfire Drake as a potential blocker, but he's going to have to Death Strike if he wants anything good to happen here. With the Flame Blasts in Peaceful's hand, I think this game is probably going to play out in his favor.
Yeah, I think it is going to as well. He's definitely got the ability to close this game out. And tvkelley trying to get in on the aggressive, but don't think that's the game plan he's got to be taking. Peaceful really taking his time to decide whether or not he wants to block here, but I think this is a pretty straightforward play.
Yeah, that looks like a pretty rough deal. Peaceful has lethal in hand now and knows it. tvkelley kind of wanted to be aggressive there just for the sake of being aggressive, but I'm not sure if he should have left the Statuary Maiden behind if that was the case. If that's your only out, is to push more damage than Peaceful does, then you really just needed a little bit more. And Peaceful doesn't have the 3rd red for Flame Blast, so can't actually cast it for the victory.
Yeah, he can't quite get in there for it, though he will trade off. The Soulfire Drake will just get Death Striked away, I believe. So Peaceful is going to go ahead and take this series 2-0, it looks like.
Yep, that looks like the game. With a Death Strike in hand, Peaceful should have everything wrapped up.
Yeah, wasn't able to actually mount a defense there. So yeah, tvkelley. Oh, yeah, tvkelley unfortunately just going to realize the writing on the wall and concede.
Yeah, both of these Stone Scar decks have some really malicious potential streaks. If you're running Champion of Chaoses out on time, if you're running Impending Dooms out on time, Peaceful got the lucky hand there with the 3 Impending Dooms, and that was just really crucial. But there's enough high-quality cards that hands like that are not terribly uncommon, so it's really a question of like how much you can stymie the aggression and how early you want to play that Statuary Maiden as opposed to trying to stay defensive and not get overwhelmed.
Yeah, I think Stone Scar midrange has a hard time dealing with the Stone Scar burn deck. just because the Burns game plan is so easy, and oftentimes if you don't draw the right suite of removal from the Stone Scar mid range deck, you will just lose to that early aggression. Or as we saw there, I mean, even the Stone Scar burn deck just churning out Impending Doom after Impending Doom just put him on such a real clock that really tvkelley couldn't do anything about it, unfortunately.
Yeah,
Just no way
weirdly,
for him to recover.
he actually got out mid-ranged by the burn deck. There was just too many big, ugly threats at the top, and so Peaceful ended up being the beatdown. There's also just like a decent amount of just advantage there to just going first. Not being able to play Statuary Maiden as an aggressive play and having to play it as a defensive play, which allows him to get the double Impending Dooms down. Yeah, it's kind of a knockdown, drag-out fight for these two decks. One that goes first is going to have the advantage of tempo for quite a while until the cards start running low and that extra card from the draw becomes relevant.
Yeah, absolutely. And unfortunately, out of tvkelley, we never saw an Umbered Reaper come up. That would have been something that would have helped him out, stabilize the board. And that's often the game plan when you are in the Stone Scar mirrors, is it often becomes either who can put more damage down in the early game or who can find their Umbered Reapers and start creating these massive life swings where you're gaining 5 and your opponent's losing 5, and you can start creating a clock in that way while also chewing up their units and removal.
Yeah, Kelly has the answer there. So tvkelley offering GG, but I believe it's 1-1. So are the players aware of it?
No, tvkelley lost the first game.
Oh, he lost the first game? Okay, it's 2-0. Okay.
Yeah, I believe he did go down in the first game. Yeah, he went down in the first game to that 9 damage Flame Blast.
Yep.
So
all right.
he unfortunately,
I just mixed up the decks.
yeah, he unfortunately is down there. But yeah, Stone Scar burn, definitely a hard mirror. Well, not burn per se, but the Stone Scar mirrors themselves, even if the deck variants are slightly different between the mid range and the burn. Still an important matchup to go first in, like you said, and an important matchup to find the very specific tool you're looking for, either the straight aggressive plus burn game plan, or whether you want to be on the more defensive trading with the removal and finding those Umbered Reapers.
Yep.
But
I think like overall, tvkelley might have bought himself a couple of extra turns there if you run a Death Strike out instead of a Statuary Maiden on 4. But you really do want to develop that card advantage for the later game, and so I can't say I disagree with either play. So just ended up not working out in his favor because of those 3 Impending Dooms in hand.
yeah, just